tiny corner of the internet. If you've been here for any length of time at all, you know that today is a Wednesday, and that means that I've got another book talk video for you guys. Now, before we get into that, and trust me, we are going to get into it with some doozies, I just thought I'd take a moment, pour a mug of tea, sit and enjoy the rain and the cold and the thunder and the lightning. Temperatures have plummeted in the last few days, and you will never hear me complain about dropped temperatures in the summer. I'm all for it. So just enjoying this day, and this weather is lending itself just perfectly to what we are going to do here today. Just have some tea and talk some books. So, you guys, who we are talking about today is perhaps the greatest writer of his generation. Certainly one of the greats of all the generations, and that is Wally Lamb. Now, he released his first novel, She's Come Undone, in 1992. So in 24 years, he's given us 4 books, and we're going to be talking about all 4 of them today. And the thing is, so 4 books over 24 years, it's not a lot of output, but each one is so worth the wait. And today we are going to be starting with the most recent one, which is We Are Water. And then we're going to be working our way back towards She's Come Undone. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So We Are Water was released in, I think last year, if not last year, 2014. And it is about a family. And the matriarch of that family is Annie. She is middle-aged. She has been married to her husband Orion for 27 years. And quite to even her surprise, she finds that she has fallen in love with a woman named Vivica. And she has left her husband, and she is going to marry Vivica. So, this is where our story begins, with Annie and Vivica going home to Annie's hometown to have their wedding. And the story is told alternatingly from points of view of Annie and her family. So there's Annie, there's her husband Orion, and then they have 3 children. And so everybody's points of view are put into this story. As a side note, you guys, look how well my nails match this book cover. Not intentional, because I had just mentioned in my this polish in my June favorites video, and I said I would wear it in the next video to show, but now I'm just seeing great choice, matches well. Okay, so the wedding. Alternating points of view. Okay, so when she goes home, when all this is happening, what begins to happen is dark, long buried family secrets start bubbling to the surface, and it becomes time to deal with them, because you can only hide from these things for so long. So this book isn't my favorite of his books. It's great, but this one isn't the one to me that packed the biggest punch. It would probably be number 4, but it is still so good. He is heart-wrenching in every book that he writes. It's just enough to kick you in the heart. It's so much, and he sets standards that previously hadn't even been on the horizon. He's just so good at it. And one thing that I find he touches on in a lot of his books are generations. You know, we meet the people who the story's about today, but then we also find out, I mean, some books go back 5, 6 generations, so we can find out about all of the people who came before the people we're dealing with now and why they are the way they are. And one such example of that in this is he spends quite a bit of the book writing from the point of view of a pedophile. And he does it in such a way that I don't think has ever been done before. He does it in such a way so that we can kind of see through almost compassionate eyes why that person is the way they are. So throughout this, a common theme for all the characters is it's a deep look at the way the traumas that we face when we are children rear their ugly heads later in life and affect us many years later, perhaps when we thought we were done with it. So I find that so interesting, and I find this family interesting. I mean, aside from Annie, a lot of them don't really resonate too deeply with me, and I don't care too much about them compared to characters in his other books, but so good. Definitely worth the wait. They're all worth the wait. You can't go wrong reading Wally Lamb. So, We Are Water. Definitely check that out if you haven't already. Next up, we have The Hour I First Believed. This came out in, I believe, 2007, 2008. I'm thinking 2007. And this, I think, is my favorite of his books. It's a fictitious story about the Columbine school shootings from 1999. It's about Caleb and Maureen. They're married. They both work at the Columbine High School. Maureen is a school nurse, and I can't quite think of what kind of teacher Caleb is. But what happens is, before the shooting occurs, Caleb's aunt has a stroke, and he goes home to care for her. And it's while he's away that the shooting happens. And while it's happening, Maureen is in the cafeteria, and she crawls into a cupboard, and she stays there, and she waits it out. This book is understandably heavy. It's, it kept me up at night. It made me cry. It gave me panic attacks. The recounting of the facts of the incident, so Colum and Maureen, their story, it's fiction, but the facts and the transcripts and things like that are real from the shootings, and it's just, it's really, really intense. And then, so once the shootings themselves are over, Maureen has to find a way to kind of drag herself back into some sort of sanity, and so we go on that journey with her. Meanwhile, Caleb has found, when he was at home up in an attic, he has found 5 or 6 generations of letters from family members, and he discovers all kinds of things that he didn't know and that he finds very disturbing. And to me, the novel in general is a look at evil and the roots of evil, and where does it begin and where does it come from. So not just evil, within the confines of this horrible, horrible thing that happened, but where did it all begin? And it's such a good book. It's so sad. It's so devastating, but it's important too. It's an important book. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to say too much else. I want to, but I don't want to ruin it in case you haven't read it. But yes, definitely read this. Now, the next 2 books, I don't have the physical copies here with me. One I lent out to a friend and never got it back. The other somehow got misplaced during a move. But next up we have I Know This Much Is True. I'm going to try to insert a picture of it over here. Did it work? Okay, so I Know This Much Is True is about Dominic and his twin schizophrenic brother, Thomas. This book, I think, would perhaps be Wally Lamb's best book. You know, I said The Hour I First Believed is my favorite, but I think I Know This Much Is True is the best, and it deserves every ounce of acclaim that it has ever received. It is so good. It is that good. It is, read it and tell everyone about it good. So Dominic and his twin brother Thomas. Things aren't going so well for Dominic. His schizophrenic twin brother has just committed suicide. His 3-week-old daughter has died of SIDS, and his wife has left him. Again, this book takes a look at why are we the way we are. And I find the stories of twins so interesting, and the ways they're the same and the ways they're similar. And this book just, again, will break your heart in two. The last 50 pages, I did nothing but sob. Even though it ends, it's got a beautiful ending. And, you know, a relatively hopeful one. But it's just so beautiful, and you're just crying. And it's so good, you guys. This book stayed with me so long, and like specific scenes of it stuck with me, and I found myself thinking of them over and over and over again. One of those scenes is, it's a flashback scene, and it's when Dominic realizes that when he's little, and he realizes that him and Thomas aren't the same person. Which sounds strange, but up until then, he hadn't realized that they were two people. And it's just so interestingly written. And I think about that so often. Another part that is just so incredibly heartbreaking is, so like I mentioned, Dominic's 3-week-old daughter dies of SIDS. And then later on in the book, he has this moment. It's 7 years later now. And he has this moment of fantasy where he kind of imagines what if she hadn't died in his mind. And he thinks about taking her to dance classes. That's like the thing that he's thinking of. Taking her to dance classes. Something so simple, you know, that we all do with our daughters, or all can do with their daughters, and he's just kind of fixated on that, and how he's lost that, and how much he wishes he had it. So I think about that a lot as well, and it's an amazing book. It's a scary book in that the themes, the mental illness themes that it addresses, you know, they're not scary, but, you know, it'll touch you. And it'll rattle you a little, and it's just so good. It should be read by everybody, and read in schools. Amazing, amazing book. And then finally, that takes us back to the beginning, 1992, Wally Lamb's debut novel, She's Come Undone. And it's your, you know, your classic kind of coming-of-age story. And it tells the story of Dolores, who when we meet her is 13 years old. She is hard on the outside, but she is soft on the inside. And she is wounded, and she is tragic, and she is broken. And the world is hard, and she retreats inside. And things just keep getting worse and worse as she tries to internalize a life that doesn't hurt so much. And you know, things get worse and worse until they don't. And she finds a way, or she decides that it's enough. And then then we follow her as she crawls through trying to make a different life for herself, and we see her struggle and fall, but we're cheering her on, and it's messy and it's uncomfortable, this story. It's painful, and you want to look away sometimes, but you can't, because you're here to witness what happened to her and how she is trying to live. And it's just a very emotional story. You don't have to have gone through all the things that Dolores had, clearly, because, who has all of them? But you will still know her. You will still feel her. And it's sometimes the uncomfortable parts that make us want to look away are the ones that resonate the strongest within us. And, like I said, yeah, you don't have to have gone through the things that she has. You just need to be a human, and especially a woman. And when you read this, you will be gobsmacked that a man wrote this. That a man wrote about a 13-year-old girl and the things that she struggles with so intimately, because it's such a 13-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl, the things they're going through and feeling and knowing are so vastly different. It's just amazing. And it ends beautifully. And it's a great story, no matter how messy and uncomfortable it gets at times. And it's just a breathtaking debut novel. I mean, beautiful. So, I would love to know down below what, if any, Wally Lamb books you've read. What was your favorite? What was your least favorite? Let's talk it out and have some nice discussions going. And that's going to be it for today, you guys. I've got an interesting video coming up on Friday that I hope you're really going to love. And until then, I will see you guys around the... I don't know what I'm trying to say. Outros are the worst, you guys. Yeah, so I'll see you Friday. And until then, I hope you're having a great week. Bye, guys.